Welcome to the 3 Knockdown Rule. Starring Mario Lopez and Steve Kim. Presented by Hustler Casino and UFC Fight Pass.
Ladies and gentlemen, the 3 Knockdown Rule is in effect on UFC Fight Pass. I'm Steve Kim, joined by Mario Lopez.
Hey, nice reference. More on that later. Shout out to Smoking Tim Frazier and
Tino on the end. It's the bout sheet for today's show. It's Shu York City. And speaking of which, we are scheduled to be joined by that man, Bruce Carrington, on the championship hotline. We have fight preview, news and notes, and Ask Mario. But before we get started, we just want to let you know this podcast is sponsored by Hustler Casino, located just 15 minutes from downtown LA. During the last Monday of the month, if you play No Limit Hold'em, you can win a chance to play on the award-winning live streaming show, Hustler Casino Live. The lucky player will be staked $5,000 to play on the live stream. The winning player must stay through the duration of the whole stream. So stop by and play all your favorite games at Hustler Casino or check them out online at hustlercasino.com.
Round 1.
All right, so let's get started. This past Friday night from the theater at Madison Square Garden on ESPN2. Yes, it was Shu York City, but the main event was O'Shaquie Foster retaining his WBC junior lightweight title of the world with a split decision in 12 over Abraham Supernova. Let's talk about this fight first. Mario, I thought it was fairly close, but quite frankly, I didn't see a split decision. Second half of the fight, I thought the speed and the quickness of Foster kind of pulled away with this fight.
I agree. Nova put out a hell of an effort, and both those guys let their hands go. I like that there wasn't many feeling out type rounds. What I really like about O'Shaquie Foster is he's a combination puncher, and he'll throw combinations upstairs as well as downstairs, and he does it seamlessly. And he was able to get that knockdown with 20 seconds left, I believe, in the 12th, which sealed it for me if there should be no talk of any sort of controversy. But again, Nova was game, was well prepared, let his hands go, caught him with some nice shots, but I thought Foster actually received his shots well. But I thought he's looking sharp. It was a really nice performance, especially for a main event. It's nice not to have a letdown. Yeah. So I thought he really stepped up to the plate, and good on him. Tip of the hat for a first defense.
Yeah, and for Shock, the bottom line is this. He said that he didn't have a great weight cut. Not sure what happened from December to now. It was a relatively quick turnaround. And I'll just say this, though. The value in O'Shaquie Foster, who's a really good, tough fighter, is the belt. So whatever you did that made you struggle to make 130 this time, you better change it, because Top Rank signed you because of the championship belt. And the big money opportunities come in unification bouts, or if you face the winner of Oscar Valdez against Liam Wilson, or the WBA champion Lamont Roach. As we like to say, belts matter. You could say that they don't, but the bottom line is for O'Shaquie Foster, Mario, he's earning much more money with that belt than he was before.
Absolutely. You cannot lose the battle at the scale. All fighters know there's two fights, one at the scale and one in the ring. Oftentimes it's lost before, and Top Rank, unfortunately, has dealt with fighters that have not been able to win that first fight and come up to this and make weight. Once you get to that point, especially when you're a champion, you have to make that priority number one no matter what, because you can lose everything like that.
Yeah, and the mark of a good fighter, as Larry Merchant once taught me, if you don't have your best stuff, got to be able to find a way. And on this night at the theater, Shock found a way. Now, Mario, we got to talk about this. A young man that stole the show at the top of the broadcast. A featherweight, I would say now, contender. He's no longer a prospect. He has graduated with honors. Bruce Carrington with another striking knockout, icing Bernardo Torres in 4.
Carrington looked sharp. You know, it was a different style that I think he's been used to. Took a couple rounds to sort of feel him out, but then once he started to gauge that distance and really understand the rhythm of his opponent, he started catching him with nice counters. And when he caught him in the 4th, it reminded me of a young James Toney, because he did the shoulder roll, came back with an uppercut, did another shoulder roll, came back with the right hook, and it was pretty. It was pretty. Right inside, he threw the straight right hand, came back, uppercut, came back, boom, with the right hook. It was so nice. Didn't move his feet. That was some real poise, savvy veteran stuff right there. And that's all he wrote. Or she wrote, I should say. And he's got charm on the mic, too. I think he busted out a Mike Tyson quote towards the end. But which goes a long way in building a marketable star. And I think he's on the brink of now being just that, a young star. I think he deserves to be in the mix with the top contenders at featherweight. That was an impressive fashion. I think it's a delicate balance. You don't want to move him too fast, but at the same time, you're ready to step him up. So maybe show him different kind of styles, get a rugged little Mexican in there that throws a lot of leather, and see how he handles that. But he looked really sharp, and like I said, that little James Toney move was very impressive.
The thing that I like about him is the last 2 fights, he's fought his 2 best guys, and he stepped up. So as you elevate his level of opposition, he elevates his game. Now, keep this in mind. He's only 11-0 with 7 knockouts, but he's 26. He himself turned pro a little bit later as a plan. He wanted to be a mature individual and be fully seasoned. And Bruce Carrington is from Brownsville, Brooklyn. So there's a natural pull.
And we did a Mike Tyson quote.
Yes, and so he was on stage. This was his first ESPN appearance. I've seen every one of his fights on ESPN Plus. And when you're on a spotlight like that, it's not just if you win, it's how you win. Mm-hmm. It matters. And when he landed that right hand and Torres is sprawled out on the canvas, if you go on social media, there was a buzz about Bruce Shu Shu Carrington.
How you win exactly matters, and I wish the last couple of main events that happened on Thursday night would realize that.
Yeah.
Because not just for themselves, but for the sport in general, but it was nice to see both Oshaki Foster and Shu Shu step up to the plate and deliver some nice performances.
You know, with Bruce Carrington, the highest compliment that I could pay him, he reminds me of a lot of those really good fighters from the 80s and 90s. He just looks the part. He acts the part. I remember growing up, Mario, if I ever saw a fighter whose corner had Lou Duva and George Benton and they're signed with main events, I'd be like, that guy must have been a great amateur.
Yeah.
He must have a future.
He knows how to fight.
And if I ever saw a black fighter with the gold Kronk trunks and a guy by the name of Manuel Stewart training him, I kind of knew immediately that guy must be going someplace.
He's going to be a tough out.
It's the same feel that I have for Bruce Carrington. Now, he told me in Las Vegas, and we're going to talk to him soon, he said, Steve, this year is about activity. Like, in terms of my skills, I want to keep this sharpening them, but I want to develop a fan base. Now, I'm going to tell you right now, he could not have started this year off any better. My understanding is at the Puerto Rican Day Parade weekend, June 8th, he will be at least a co-headliner.
Now, he's not Puerto Rican, but he's very New York.
Very New York.
So he represents New York well, and he's a charming guy and had a lot of charisma. So I think he keeps performing like that and keeps having interviews like that. I think he's very much on his way.
You know, I'm looking at the featherweight hierarchy. For the WBA title, it's Lee Wood. IBF is Venado Lopez, who's with Top Rank.
He's tough.
And then the WBC is the always awkward Ray Vargas, and the WBO is the tall Jirafa Espinoza.
Ooh,
I don't know. I'm not sure which guy he's ready for, but I will say this. In 3 or 4 fights.
That's a deep weight class, now that you hear him out loud.
And look,
that's a deep weight class.
And you still have the Cuban that Espinoza beat. That's very talented.
Yes,
the 2-time gold medalist.
That's right.
You still have Brandon Figueroa. There's some real names. Mauricio
really
Lara.
There really is.
Who got a little bit lucky this week. But as Carl Moretti said, look, we're going to keep him active. We're going to give him different styles. And every single guy that he faces right now will have more fights than him.
I'm interested to see, and we'll ask him, of the champions, who would he prefer to face first?
And you know what his dream fight is? Inoue.
Well, I think a lot of people's dream fight is Inoue around that weight class for economical reasons.
No, I agree. But remember, Inoue still has some business to clean up at 22. Carrington is a natural 26. And here's the thing. He's got some length. He's got twitch. And he's what I would call build-up power. When he softens you up a little bit, his punches get harder. And I'm with you on that. I think there's a lot of James Toney in him in a sense that he tenderizes you, he figures you out, and then he starts to come downhill. I thought it was an amazing adjustment that a young fighter made, and Tim Bradley talked about this. If you're going to do the shoulder roll against the southpaw, here's the problem. That straight left is kind of one of those circuit breakers.
Right.
And he figured out in round 3, you know what? I'm the bigger guy. I'm lengthier. I'm probably a little bit stronger. I'm going to march forward.
Well, if you notice that particular combination, because I watched it a few times, he jabbed to the head, jabbed to the body, came with a straight right, missed with the right, shoulder rolled, adjusted a little bit, caught him with the uppercut. shoulder rolled again, and caught him with the looping right. That was so smart. And the way he was able to process all of that in a couple of seconds was very impressive for a young fighter.
And again, we got to see how he catches. But based on what I've seen and what I've heard about him, I mean, Maury, I've been watching.
All those guys you mentioned, those are good fights.
Yeah, they are.
That would be some really good fights.
There's not a bad fight among the bunch. And the one thing about Bruce Carrington that I've noticed, and I've watched interviews with him for years, back when he was a kid, he always has had an uncommon maturity. Like a lot of guys with great personality, and you stick a camera in their face, they get really shy. I still remember Bruce Carrington coming out of amateur tournaments, and someone from New York would stick a camera in his face. And you said to yourself, that kid's well raised. Like, you could just tell. Now he's just like this, becoming this burgeoning young man, and he's crowd pleasing. He represents New York, and he has a style that I think every ethnic race, religion, creed would think, you know what, that's a good fighter.
Right.
That is a good fighter. He transcends because he's such a skilled guy.
And he's got a lot of great potential dance partners. Because oftentimes you can look at Terrence Crawford for like a while there. So he's got some fun potential matchups that could be made. I think you have to be careful how you move him too. I don't know if he's ready to jump in those deep waters yet.
Right.
He's certainly on his way, maybe by the end of the year.
Yeah, I love the fact he said, my matchmakers have told me 4 fights. And he said, you know what, I actually want 5. Awesome. So again, this is a kid that has a plan. And I don't think he'll ever do one of those fake retirements that last 2 weeks. I just don't think that's within his mentality. And that's one of the things I really enjoy about Bruce Shu Shu Carrington, who we're scheduled to talk to coming up in the next segment. All right, so when we come back, we join Bruce Carrington on the championship hotline on the 3 Knockdown Rule on the UFC Fight Pass.
Catch it streaming live right on YouTube.
Welcome to the big leagues, kid.
$1.2 million.
And I'm losing in this fucking game. What the fuck?
There's a 400K flip. If I win by the way, you get 10 grand.
Fucking straddle!
For my fans!
What? I read it twice!
Wow. All in a call.
I'm not fucking leaving!
Raise it up.
All right, we're back here on the 3 Knockdown Rule on the UFC Fight Pass. And Mario, we got a very special guest making his 3 Knockdown Rule debut. Bruce Carrington, the 2023 Ring Magazine and ESPN Prospect of the Year. This past Friday came off an eye-opening knockout over Bernardo Torres at the theater at Madison Square Garden. Bruce, how you doing?
Man, I'm feeling great. I'm honestly still on the high right now. It's really something that I didn't expect. But man, I had so much fun in there last weekend, and I'm just super happy with the outcome and all the traction I'm getting on social media. It's great right now.
Well, congratulations. It was a very impressive victory. And I was really just happy to see a main event that delivered, because the last couple of Thursday night fights, man, it turned into like track meets out there. I'm like, oh, it really is Shu York City. And I got to tell you, I know you're only 26 years old, but you look very mature in there and very savvy like a veteran. I love that sort of James Toney move when you kind of parried that and you slipped the shoulder, came up with an uppercut, and then came back and boom with the right hook, right? You set up like that?
Yeah. Listen, I'm a big fan of James Toney. He's like top 10, one of my favorite fighters of all time.
Same.
But man, listen, like I am 26 years old. I am pretty young, but at the same time, I have a lot of experience in the game. I started boxing when I was 7 years old. With that, I've been the 2016 Olympic alternate for the U.S. team. And then I was actually supposed to be a part of the 2020 Olympic team, but COVID messed up my qualifications to be able to fight and go to Tokyo. So that was pretty unfortunate. But yeah, man, like, listen, I've got a lot of experience, been in the ring with a lot of guys. So the maturity that you see in the ring, it comes from that.
Awesome.
All right, so Bruce, here's the thing. How long did it take you to memorize the Mike Tyson speech? I remember I want to eat Lennox Lewis's kids. You had the whole thing
That
down.
was pretty good. I got to say, that was articulate. You didn't bobble that at all. That was nice.
No, I actually did. I fumbled it a little bit in the beginning. But I will say, I remember I practiced saying that since I was a little kid. And bro, it's so funny because in the beginning, you can kind of hear me ramble a little bit, and it's hilarious. Everybody in the comments are talking about it. But it was one of those moments like when you practice for something all your life, and then when it's the moment that you decide to do it and try it and like really execute it, and you just kind of butcher it in the beginning. That was one of those moments. But I kind of like I got back into the momentum and I finished strong or whatever. And I'm so happy that I did it because it was the perfect moment to do it. I felt like that fight was like my coming out party. I did what I had to do to become the 2023 Ring Magazine and ESPN Prospect of the Year in 2023. But I felt like all the eyes were on me. And I just wanted to do something and to deliver for everybody to remember, like, yo, that kid right there is something special. That kid right there is someone that I want to see inside and outside of the ring. And I just felt like, reciting Mike Tyson was the perfect thing to do. Even though I didn't do it perfect, I feel like I did it good enough for people to talk about me.
Absolutely. You closed out strong, my man. And it was nice too, being that you're from New York. The fight was in New York. Obviously a lot of buzz afterwards. So I often say too, we talk all the time, it's not just winning, it's how you win. The last couple of performances, you've really been impressive in those victories. You mentioned Mike, you both are from Brownsville in
Correct.
Brooklyn. How did growing up there shape you? I mean, I'm sure it was a little different from when he grew up.
Oh yeah, 100%. Like he grew up in a tougher era, 100%. I don't know, I can't even compare my era to his era. Like he had a lot of alphas and a lot of real dogs like coming up from when he came up. But there were still dogs coming up in my era as well too. Coming up from Brownsville is just different from any type of environment. And I truly believe that the New York state of mind is already in its own rough, aggressive, very hustle and bustle. It's just different from anywhere else that I've ever been to. And then coming into Brooklyn, it gets real grimy. And then Brownsville alone, like a lot of people from Brooklyn won't even walk through the neighborhood of Brownsville at a certain time of night. Man, I used to see like people getting killed right in front of me. I used to see people getting shot and then robbings and all these different type of crazy things happening. Hearing gunshots at 3, 4 in the morning and waking you up out your sleep. This is kind of an exaggerated statement, but it was kind of like waking up to the smell of gun smoke type thing. You know what I mean? So, but, Brownsville, it shaped me into a certain type of person because growing up in that environment, you got to build tough skin. You got to learn how to adapt in that type of situation because you can't break down because it'll eat you alive, man. You can't break down the type of environment. It's like you got to get with it. Or, you're just going to just get eaten alive. So, and now I wasn't that type of person to get eaten alive. And, but I will say, I don't want to even put too much negativity in Brownsville because people of Brownsville, they support me so much. They've been behind me from the start. And listen, you've seen how the crowd was going crazy, man. Like, I love my people in Brownsville. I'm better than no one from Brownsville. Every little speck of dirt, I represent that. Every little bit of it.
Bruce, it's interesting. Last week, I saw the documentary that was done on you several years ago, and a lot of it centered around the death of your brother and how your family reacted. And I've been watching interviews that were done with you for years, and you've always had this maturity about you and this intelligence. And that's the thing about being in an area like that I've always been told. You can either rise above it or it can engulf you. And you've always had this intelligent nature, and you've always what I would call an old soul. Where do you get that from?
Well, I get it from my dad, my granddad as well too. I mean, like my dad, when I was young, he had me around all of his friends growing up. I wasn't really around a lot of my peers, kids my age, for the most part of my childhood. A lot of the times my dad had me in the gym, and if I'm not in the gym, I'm hanging out with him and I'm just having real genuine banter with people his age, and I'm picking their brain and I'm learning from them and them giving me advice and me going back and forth and just having genuine conversations. So I felt like with that, I became more mature than, the kids my age. And I think that's where it kind of comes from. I was just always just attracted to their mindset, like the older people's mindset, because they were just so wise. They had so much wisdom to give, so much life experiences that they have, went through. I just became a sponge and I just wanted to learn, like, man, how did you get from this? Or what did you do to get over this? And I was just a product of my environment.
Smart, very smart take. Very smart take. You moved to Las Vegas. How long did you move, and how do you like it out there? How has the adjustment been?
I've been back and forth consistently out of Vegas and New York since July of 2021. I was getting ready for my pro debut, but I officially made the move last year of March. I fell in love with Vegas, my very first camp out there. Fell in love with it because of the fact how many boxing people are out there. Like the networking is incredible. The sparring that I get out there, all of the who's come out to Vegas to work, the terrain and the conditions, like the heat, bro. Yeah, like you're not getting that in New York. It's just a competitive level out there. It's something that I just was addicted to. So it was like, man, it was a no-brainer for me to live out there. And then, the cost of living different from New York.
No, exactly. But you're a young guy with a lot of energy. Do you find it distracting at all? Because you put me in my 20s in Vegas, that'd be bad.
Listen, man, I will tell you, man, I don't get distracted by those things because I'm not interested in the whole gambling or, I like the party scene and nothing like that. I'm real locked in. I'm really, really locked in.
See, I told you, he has an old soul. Now, Bruce, be honest though. As a New York, there's one thing about New Yorkers that I've noticed: they are very defensive about their pizza. You make a joke about their pizza, like Chicago's or that Sbarro's.
They really do have some damn good
or that Sbarro's
in the water
is the best. Like I've gotten death threats on Twitter. Is the pizza better in New York, and do you miss it, Bruce?
Well, listen. The New York's pizza is top notch. No, nothing. I don't care. People who go to Chicago pizza, like, nah, get out deep dish. Get up out of here, man.
Hey, that's like pizza
all
cake.
The real Italians, they set home in New York for a reason, man. They set their home in New York for a reason, and we got the real Italians, the Sicilians. They made the best pizza, and it comes out of New York. I don't care what nobody say. One thing I will say though, I've been on a plant-based diet for 6 years, so. I don't have that pizza anymore. I don't really have that pizza anymore. But I will say, man, that pizza is top notch.
It really is. The pizza and the bagels. Was the plant-based diet just a personal decision or for health reasons or?
Both. Yes. It was both a personal decision and health reasons. For me, I felt like I was, real sluggish when I was eating what I used to eat. Like I was a big burger guy, big burger guy. And I used to love ribs and always different type of things before, but I used to notice like I was getting sick like very easily. My immune system wasn't the best, and chest pains used to happen. And medicine, I used to realize like I just didn't like the fact how it treated me but didn't cure the things that I wanted to get dealt with. So I was like, I gotta take matters in my own hands and eat the right things. And I remember the reason I turned into the plant-based diet was I watched this documentary on Netflix called What the Health. I'm not sure if it's still on there now, but What the Health, that documentary, it was like life-changing for me and my father. So we went cold turkey that day.
Wow.
And we were just like,
that's impactful. That's right there.
That was crazy.
Kim. Kim's ass just be eating burgers all day.
Don't listen to him.
Yo, back around the time that I turned plant-based, man, it was super tough. Like there weren't that many plant-based restaurants out there or many restaurants that had vegan options, and it was super tough. But I kind of just had a strong mentality, and I was just like, listen, I gotta start just cooking at home or whatever. And then once the years went by, all of these different restaurants started to come up, and it just became easier after a while. And listen, it's like a whole plant-based community out there right now, and listen, I'm super happy about that.
Good for you, man. Right on.
So Bruce, I talked to Carl Moretti on Saturday, and he says looks like you're going to be earmarked for June 8th, part of the Puerto Rican Day Parade weekend. Car Top Rank does all the time. Here's a question I have for you: how do you stay focused?
Man, to be honest,
now there's a buzz about you.
Yeah. I mean, well, listen, I have certain people around me for a reason. First thing, though, I definitely pray to God to keep me humble. I pray to God to keep me humble. The Most High, He, without Him, I am nothing. I'm just, a vessel. I just follow His plan. But other than that, man, I just, Jesus takes the wheel. But, other than that, man, I have my fiance behind me. She keeps me locked in. I have my coaches behind me, keep me locked in, my family. You know, I really have certain people around me that keep me focused, that keep me humble, keep me grounded. And those are the main things that help me continue to go forward day by day.
You seem like a real grounded individual, man. I really am impressed. I'm glad we got the opportunity to talk. One last question from me. Of the champions that are in your division, who would you like to face first?
To be honest, man, it's any, mini, money, mo for me. I'm with anybody. I'm ready for anybody. I don't even want to act like I want to put a name out there to just even try to give that person a little extra clout or whatever, because my interest is really just to take over the sport of boxing. It's just anybody that steps in that way is just going to be in trouble when the time comes. But I am ready for anybody and everybody. I've already stepped in a ring with a couple of the champions in sparring, and they know what's up. So when it's time, when it's time for us to step in the ring officially in front in them bright lights, I'm going to be even more of a complete fighter, and it's going to be a scary sight for anybody that steps in the ring.
Bruce, is the goal to have a belt by a time a certain Japanese fighter who goes by the moniker of the Monster moves up to 126? Is that the big dream fight for you?
That is a dream fight for me, 100% sure, like 100%. But I will say I'm on my own path. If the fight don't happen, the fight don't happen. It is what it is. I'm not chasing that fight, but that is a fight that I would love because I like to challenge myself. I see myself as the best, but they call him the best. I want to shut all them doubters down. I want everybody to know that Shu Shu is going to take over the world, man. It's Shu York City right now, but it's gonna be the Shu world once it's all said and done. And yeah, man, I want to test myself against guys like that. I want to test myself against in a way, or whoever the best of the best is when the time comes. I want everybody to look at me as one of the greats. When they mention Mike Tyson, Floyd Mayweather, Muhammad Ali, Bruce Shu Shu Carrington will be in conversation when it's all said and done.
Go from Shu, New York City to La Shu.
La Shu, yeah. Before we get out of here, you're a New Yorker, so there's split loyalties all the time. Real quick. All right, Yankees or Mets?
Ooh, don't do me like that. Oh, man, I love the Yankees, though. The Yankees, for sure.
Okay. Jets or Giants?
Giants.
Okay, they have Super Bowls. All right. Okay, let's go hockey. Islanders or Rangers?
Ooh, that's a tough one. That is a tough one. Oh, I'm kind of on the fence with that one. I want to say, let's go Rangers.
Oh, I like that.
What about Nets or Knicks?
Nets or Knicks?
Knicks.
Oh, what teams in Brooklyn?
Over Brooklyn.
Yeah. I love Brooklyn. I like the Nets. I like the Knicks, but
you grew up with the Knicks.
Yeah, for sure. Yes.
I appreciate the loyalty. Well, my man, let me tell you, very impressive. And tell your dad he did a really good job. And keep up the great work and stay focused. I look forward to seeing you fight in person. When you get out here, come and visit us.
Yeah, I'm going to make my plan for June 8th. I'm going out there. I haven't been to New York in a while. Bruce, when you're in LA, let us know. We'd love to have you in studio, brother. Appreciate you.
For sure. I'll definitely hit you up, Steve. I'll definitely hit you up. Thank you guys so much for having me, man.
You got it, buddy.
Mario, it's been a pleasure, man. Again, big fan. Man, this is just all this stuff. I'm living my dream right now. This is a dream come true.
Oh, wow.
It's a dream come true.
That's awesome. Hey, he's on it. Yeah. Congratulations again, buddy.
Thanks a lot, Bruce. Appreciate you.
Dude. Appreciate you. God bless.
All right, that is Bruce Shu Shu Carrington, an impressive young man, an impressive young fighter. We'll be back with more of the 3 Knockdown Rule on the UFC Fight Pass. And we're back on the 3 Knockdown Rule. And again, if you want to sponsor our fine program, please info@boxbid.io. Please email if you'd like to sponsor our fine program. Once again, that's info@boxbid.io. Boxbid.io is an online platform that is launching soon that helps public figures and professionals in the world of boxing get sponsorships. We are proudly working with boxbid.io. Mario, was Bruce Carrington as advertised?
I really like that kid. I'm a bigger fan now. Yes, he's an impressive fighter, but he seems to be even more impressive young man. Just articulate, bright, very mature, all the things we already said. I love the relationship with him and his father. Then they moved out there to get even more focused in Vegas. That's like almost sort of a blueprint that you want young fighters to sort of follow.
As they say, he gets it. And when I spoke to Bob Arum last week about Carrington, he said he's an absolute pleasure to work with. Cool. And he said, he doesn't give us a lot of shit. I love the guy. So anyway, moving on.
Review preview.
This past Friday in Mexico on the Zone, what a comeback, a salute, a tip of the cap to South African Sivanathe Nochinga with a knockout in 10 over Adrian Curiel to regain the IBF light flyweight title. Now, the last time they met in November of 2023, Nochinga was blasted out in 3, and I'm thinking, oh boy, now you're going to Mexico to face a Mexican on his home turf. First 3-4 rounds, it looked like he was going to get run over. I mean, he's getting beat up on the inside, body shots coming, but the South African didn't do one thing. Didn't read the script. And then all of a sudden, his hand speed, I'm thinking, wait a minute, what's going on here? This guy's not trying to win, is he? And he pulled it off, one of the best fights of the year, and what a fighting spirit this guy had. Congratulations.
Well, it's ironic because his name is Nochinga, like, don't fuck with me, Nochinga.
Exactly. Moving on to the fight preview. Bonsai this Saturday morning. Set your alarm clock, or for you, Mario, just watch it when I tell you to. Tokyo, Japan on ESPN Plus for the WBA bantamweight title. Takuma Inoue, the brother of the monster, takes on German Ancajas, and the guy that I'm really looking forward to for the WBC bantamweight title, Alexander Santiago, takes on Junto Nakatani. Also, Kosei Nataka will be fighting for the WBA junior bantamweight title. Junto Nakatani last year had the knockout of the year against one of the Maloney brothers, going for his 3rd world title. And Mario, he's trained by the great Rudy Hernandez, who's told me for about a year and a half. He goes, Steve, Inoue is an all-time great. He told me that 5 years ago. He said, Steve, I think he's the best fighter.
Well, he has a good eye.
And he says, Steve, I know I'm biased, but I think Nakatani's the best, second best fighter from the land of the rising sun.
Wow.
He's tall, he's lanky, he's southpaw. And this is what I love about what Junto does for the last 5-6 years. Spends about 5 to 6 weeks in America, much the way Hamza Shiraz does.
Right.
Guys like that have a purpose. They have a focus.
You know they're serious. They want to acclimate.
Right. And they get better from it, though. And the one thing about Junto, he's getting better fighting off the ropes. And I saw a sparring session that he did about 6-7 weeks ago at Manny Robles' gym. I could see the seasoning. Because a lot of fighters, when they face a certain style, you almost get the sense they've never seen that style.
Right.
You come to America, I think you see every style.
You're exactly right. Even though it is a truly global sport, like we've discussed, soccer, football, I should say, and boxing really are the true global sports. When you're world champion, that's really a world champion as opposed to Super Bowl world champions. We're the only country that plays it. And specifically, I would say LA, maybe I'm a little biased, but I think you get the highest quality of fighters here over New York, over Detroit, over Chicago, over Miami. Wouldn't you say? Is that fair to say?
Funny you say that. Well, Bruce Carrington is a New York guy who came out west. Go west, young man, right?
Right. Even over Vegas, I would say, though. I would even say
but I would say West
Vegas,
Coast.
there's a lot there, too, but I'm saying just
in LA, yes.
As a
you got Robert Garcia's gym. You got the Wild Card gym. You got Joe Gooson's gym. Manny Robles' gym.
Right, even Brick House.
A lot of stuff going on at Brick House. Big Bear. So within a 100-mile radius. Right. I remember about 7-8 years ago, I did a story on Paulie Malignaggi and Kid Chocolate, Peter Quillen. They were both with Eric Brown, our good friend out there in Wild Card. And Paulie Malignaggi said, Steve, I know there's a great reputation with New York, with Gleason's gym, but here's the problem. He goes, Steve, there weren't as many fighters as you thought. That certain gyms were really about the white collar. He goes, Steve, there are more fighters in L.A. that I could spar with around my weight class than I could get anywhere in the Big Apple.
It's interesting.
So, yes, this really has become the epicenter, at least in terms of getting solid,
world-class,
consistent, world-class work. Also, later that evening on the Zone from Orlando, Florida, Edgar Berlanga takes on Paddy McCrory. Mario, I saw some footage of McCrory. Not bad. Not a bum. I think he's a pretty respectable, solid guy. He's going to have to survive the first 3 rounds and use his counter-punching shots. Berlanga is going to have to show me something because ever since the time that he fought a Contreras where he got knocked down, you were at that card. It was Fury Wilder 3. Doesn't it seem like that Edgar Berlanga has consistently just kind of slid backwards?
He started off so hot where every fight was a knockout.
In one round.
Correct.
Which may have hurt his development, actually.
Well, not just hurt his development, but his brand. People were starting to say, oh, he can fight Canelo next. And it was bandied about. And then, ever since that fight, I don't know if he got
complacent or complacent. You're right.
Or then you have rappers and Fat Joe and all these guys kind of giving him love, which is great. but you got to stay focused. You got to stay like Shu Shu. You got to keep your eye on the ball, and you got to keep working hard. I don't know when I think he's young enough to right the ship. We'll see if he's in the right direction this
I will
weekend.
say this. He's now moved out to Florida.
I think that's a good move.
Okay, and he realizes that, hey, the reviews have not been raved. This is what I'm being told. If Jaime Munguia, does not get the Canelo fight, and we're not going to find out for another week or two, the Zone is strongly suggesting to both Matchroom and Golden Boy.
I love that
we make Munguia Berlanga.
Oh, I love that. You love that?
Wepa and Orale.
Yes.
That is a great slugfest.
That's great.
Between two young guys. The winner of that, now you're thinking, okay, now you're legitimate. You've graduated a little bit.
Absolutely. And then now you're in line for those Canelo Benavides. The chance will get louder.
News and notes.
Mario, it was announced last week, and they had a very heated press conference today on Monday. The rematch, Josh Taylor versus Jack Catterall, April 27th. Mario, for us in the States, and I know it's still big over there, does it feel like spoiled milk?
Yeah, it's a little late. I think I'd still like to see it, obviously being a fan, but I think it is a bigger deal across the pond, and it'll probably still do pretty good business. Think
about the last time that they fought was the beginning of 2022. We really thought Josh Taylor was top 5 or 6 pound for pound. We thought he was the elite of the elite.
Yeah.
You actually thought that, hey, you know what, he could actually give Crawford a good run. But here's the thing. I thought he got beat that night pretty handily. I thought it was a bad decision. And then he doesn't fight. And then he gets handily beaten by Teofimo Lopez. So again, when I say spoiled milk, it's more about Josh Taylor. Catterall's done his job. And they signed the rematch last year or a year or two ago. And then it was canceled. So again, I think this is one in America. It's a tough sell, but maybe they don't care about that.
If Taylor is able to look impressive and pull out a victory, then I think he's right back in the mix.
Then he's back.
Yes.
Then he's back. And again, let's see if he can make 140, though.
Right.
That's the question.
Yes.
Mario, Golden Boy Promotions made an interesting signing. Junior middleweight who's undefeated, who I believe is a solid workman, Charles Conwell, has signed a multi-fight deal. He's a junior middleweight. He's a good, solid, physical, tough fighter. You know who's also now a junior middleweight? Virgil Ortiz. Me gusta. Let's make that fight down the line.
Me gusta también.
And also, Zurdo Ramirez, one of your gym mates at Brick House Boxing, looks like he's going to be fighting for the WBA Cruiserweight title March 30th at YouTube Theater against Arsen Goulamarian.
Ooh, we're going to have to check that out.
Yeah, it's a busy day that weekend. Moving on to the program. Here's one from Fan of Boxing. Hey guys, where can I get some 3 Knockdown Rule gear? I'd like to get me a beanie or a hoodie. And what do you know?
the hoodie on right now.
What do you know? What a coincidence.
Yeah, I look more chinito than Kim though right here.
That's the ironic thing. It does.
The wigs are tight on both of them. We still have these?
3knockdownrule.com. Just
Hook it
spell
up.
it out.
And they're good quality,
Yeah,
too.
highest quality.
Good looking out.
Oh, you could sleep on them. Just like velvet. It's like velvet. So again, the number 3knockdownrule.com. Plenty of sizes, colors, male, female, all that stuff. Here's one from Canada Chris. Does Tyson Fury showing off his quote-unquote new physique seem like smoke and mirrors, much like how Muhammad Ali did the same prior to the Larry Holmes fight? Please disregard if Mario is too young to remember 1980. What that? Get out of here with that bullshit.
But you're not?
Yeah, I'm not.
No, I think Fury's one of those guys, when motivated, he's about as tough and out and as dangerous as they come with his size, his athletic ability, even though, like I said, he's built like a bag of milk. My guy knows how to fight, and I don't think he fears anyone. I think he didn't train an hour for a Ngannou fight, just thought this guy, which makes sense. A guy who's never fought before. Pardon me. Not fought before, never boxed before, because he's definitely fought. And he actually did have a boxing background, but not to the level of a Tyson Fury. He underestimated him, and he looked well prepared for that clash of heads with Usyk. So I don't think it's just smoke and mirrors. I think he's the real deal.
Tyson Fury's the type of guy that his effort is absolutely determined by his motivation.
Right.
And here's the other thing. With Muhammad Ali, the stuff that I've read, the stuff that I've seen and researched, I believe he was taking some sort of thyroid medication, and he was taking a lot of things to make himself look slimmer, but the insides were bad. It was just a complete facade. That fight never should have been made. The 30 for 30 about that particular fight, it's one of the saddest things. Actually, an indictment on the sport. Ali should have been retired probably at the very latest the second the rematch with Leon Spinks. That should have been the end.
They shouldn't have even licensed him. It's just sad because that's when economics starts to take over and people turn the other cheek.
The sporting page. What got you into boxing?
What got me into boxing was my grandfather used to fight in Mexico, and he was into watching the fights, and so was my other grandfather and my dad. So we didn't watch football or baseball or basketball growing up. We watched fights because you know why? There was a lot of Mexicans fighting. Yeah. So we watched it, and that was sort of our bonding time. And so that's how I got into it. It's my old man.
For me, being a child of the 80s like you and I both were, boxing was ubiquitous. It was on all three major networks. Big fights mattered. This past weekend, I was bored, so I actually watched The Kings again on Showtime about the Hagler, Hearns, Leonard Duran era.
Yeah.
And it was in that era when they fought, the fights were so big that shows like Today and Good Morning America used to send their crews over. And remember, those fights were on a Monday or Tuesday or Thursday nights. So they would send Dolph Lundgren to be the special correspondent to interview both guys. And then after the fights, the next morning on Good Morning America, guys like Hagler and Hearns would be sitting right next to each other doing an interview, waking up at 3:30 Pacific time. So the fights were bigger. And then also, in that era, boxing was not this niche. It was actually still a major sport.
I think we were the last generation to, as kids, that was the case.
No doubt about it.
That was the case.
When everything was now pay-per-view, now
Yeah.
it's streaming. And so, again, I'm not saying it should be like that, but I wish it was. Here's one from Kevin the Trucker. What has happened to the NBA All-Star Weekend? Never in the 80s or 90s would a white guy win back-to-back dunk. Hold on. Brent Barry won it back in the mid-90s. Here's the issue, though.
I remember that.
Mario, if you see the coverage of what took place this weekend, it is sad. There's no effort. The players do not care. I remember growing up, it would be a big deal because the dunk contest had Michael Jordan, Dominique Wilkins, Clyde Drexler. Three-point contest really mattered with Larry Bird.
All-Star Weekend. I used to go. I went to about 7 in a
Did
row
you really?
in the 90s.
Why?
I'll never forget because. Well, he was there, I think, a couple times.
Urkel had a nice crossover.
But because when I was on Saved by the Bell, it was on NBC. The NBA All-Star Game was always on NBC.
That's right.
So I'd go out there and I'd do a lot of the activities. I'll never forget one time. I'm waiting for the elevator, and who comes out of the elevator? It was Michael Jordan, Charles Barkley, Sean Kemp, and Clyde Drexler. All four of those guys. So, and then I was just like, whoa, as a kid, it was like 92, 93. So right in there, they were all in their prime, right? Coming out and seeing all of them. But no, they used to have an effort. They used to play.
Yeah.
It was, I remember one time I was in Salt Lake City. I went back to Karl Malone's house when it was there.
He won the MVP that year.
He did. And in Minnesota, we went to Prince's house and went to Paisley Park. He did a concert. I got a lot of great All-Star stories.
Yeah, the only All-Star weekend festivities I watched this week, Maury, and you actually called me about 15 minutes before the fights were going on air. You were with your father. The NBA Celebrity All-Star Game was on before boxing.
Oh, that's right.
So it's starting at 6.
Dude, Cuckoo Pakua, dude.
Yeah.
What's his name from the Rams?
Well, Micah Parson, he can ball.
So can Cuckoo.
Yeah,
Is that his name? Cuckoo. I hope I'm not messing up his name.
Pakua.
Pakua.
Yeah.
But the Hawaiian kid from that, he got tops. He can play too.
And Parsons can ball better than he stops the run. Just a joke. But anyway, so the game ran just a little bit long. And something, okay, it's 6:02. Let's get to New York. It's Bruce Carrington time. I want some Shu Shu in my life. They did a whole 20-minute post. I'm like, bro, it's a celebrity game.
I know.
I was like, guys, you're torturing me. All right, one last question here. From Matty Rolls. Can you remember a time when 154 and 160 was so devoid of talent, minus a couple of names here or there? It's a wasteland, don't you think? Mario, here's what I think happened.
You know what? I kind of agree in the sense that when you were just rattling off all the champs at 126, I was like, ooh.
Solid.
What a solid division. Even 135, we've gone
And
over
they
that.
actually fight, though. That's the thing. They
Right.
fight.
Correct. You know why? They don't have a choice. Exactly. They want to get paid. And then 154, 160, it's like it does seem
Charlo
like,
has not defended his middleweight title in a couple years.
and I think Janabek is the new boogeyman in that division.
Right,
No
and then
one wants to mess with him.
let's be honest. Jaime Munguia's turned down 3 title shots. Okay, Carlos Adames, who I
Well, he's
feel
168 now, so let's see if he
yeah,
goes.
you're right. But at 160, he
Correct.
turned down multiple title shots. We have to be fair. Carlos Adames, who's a rugged, tough guy, he's been number 1 for a year, and no one wants to help him because he's with the PBC, who's trying to protect another PBC fighter,
see.
and the WBC is in bed with the. I mean, it's like
Politics.
more politics than the GOP and the Democrats. And there's other fighters, but you're right. Janabek is a guy who's dying to unify titles. Everyone treats him like he does not exist.
No, it's like he's got COVID.
I'm hearing that Terrence Crawford may actually be considering going up to 54 to fight Tim Tszyu. Sign me up.
We've been saying that would be a major move. I'd love to see him fight Tszyu and then Janibek.
Right, but yeah, this has not exactly been the Julian Jackson, James Toney, Roy Jones, Gerald McClellan era and Mike McCallum, the greatest I've ever seen at 54 in that region.
Terry Norris, I like the 54.
Oh, Terry Norris, right. Terrible T.
Final flurries.
Final flurries. Mario, give us a rundown of UFC 298. You were cage side.
So it was interesting because it was down at the Honda Center in Anaheim, and I took my dad, who just turned 75.
Happy birthday to that vato.
Shout out to Pops there.
Orale.
He had never been to an MMA event. Dude, he loved it.
Huh?
He loved how the crowd was so into it, how the fights, there was no downtime in between the fights, all the action that was there. He's like, I was really impressed. And obviously he wasn't familiar with any of the fighters.
He's old school Vato Mexican.
And he's an old school Vato Mexican.
Oh,
and I'm
my
like,
God.
wow,
Oh, boy.
they did a really good job. If you can get an old timer like my dad, I'm telling you, that's a sign. That's a sign. He loved it. He loved it.
Oh, boy.
And it was a hell of a card. And shout out to Ilia Topuria from Spain, España, knocking out in impressive fashion our boy Volkanovski.
How big of an upset is that if it was?
It was an upset.
Because when I saw the result, I was like, ooh.
I called it, and for a reason. I'll tell you. He was a fight. He went up a weight class and he went back down. You know it doesn't bode, and you know it doesn't bode well in boxing. And I feel the same in MMA. And that combined with the fact that Topuria is a bad dude, probably the best boxing in MMA. Only has thrown one kick in all of his fights. Isn't that weird? But he defended a lot of them, but he's only one low kick. But he knocked him out, setting him up with a jab to the body, straight right hand, a big left hook to count it. So shout out to him. Very, very impressive. You're going to have to come with me one of these times. It was a good time.
Wow. And here's the other thing. With the UFC, we timed it one time when we were watching a show at your crib, as the kids say. When the UFC has a fight end, it's generally about 12 to 15 minutes before the next fight gets into the ring.
If that, I had to run to get a drink.
Right.
To come back in time.
You got sources. Tell Dana, lay back about 10 minutes, okay? In boxing, no matter what the fight is, it doesn't even have to be a big pay-per-view. It's like, I just tell people, go shopping.
You can go drop
off your kids. Whatever.
It's a whole thing. It was in and out of there.
Yeah.
We were in and out of there, and you're still there 3 hours or whatever, but it's all fights.
Yeah.
It's all fight, even the undercard. So yeah, it's very impressive.
So Mario, you have an electric car, and those things in theory are so good until you drive one. What happened?
Dude, I'm getting so frustrated. I love the not paying for gas and being able to drive in the diamond lane without having anyone next to me. But I guess even when you're just idling, it burned. I misgauged how many miles it has left. And it's not like, when you're on E in a gas, you still have a couple miles left.
Yeah.
No. It's like a phone. You go on E, it shuts off.
Dead. It's dead.
No. So for tooling around town, it's fine. If you're going to go long distances, that's what the wife's got to keep a gas one.
Though. Yeah.
I know, but I thought I had my gauge figured out, and something's going. I'm just having issues with it. Now you put me in a bad mood.
You know what I love about my Nissan? My Nissan, I know how much miles.
Nissan Sentra.
Yeah, my Datsun. When I ride my Datsun, I know it's okay. I don't need one of those plug-in things. I just get gas.
All right, get gas. You have gas, is what you mean. Come on, fool.
All right. Well, anyway, that's it for this week's edition of the 3 Knockdown Rule. We'd like to thank Bruce Shu Shu Carrington for joining us and everyone else that made this show possible.
Yes, big shout out, Smoking Tim Frazier and
Tino on the edit. So till the next round, next week on the 3 Knockdown Rule.